Welcome back to another episode of the Wolfpack Way. Today we have a good friend of mine, Shanne Carvalho from the Bay Area out in San Francisco. He's a little bit south. He is a 49ers fan. We won't hold it against him. But Shanne is one of the original Wolfpack members, absolutely crushes the business. And I'm so excited to talk with him today about simplifying the business. In our tech industry, in our tech forced world, Shanne has managed to build an incredible business, and he's not the most tech savvy, but we got him here today. So Shanne, thanks so much for popping on. Shanne, tell us a little bit just about yourself and kind of where this all started.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, it was almost a challenge getting on. So I'm, basically you're right, Bay Area, live just south in the Santa Cruz area. So I was born and raised here. My parents are Portuguese immigrants from the Azores Islands. So my first language is Portuguese, second language is English, and my third language is Spanish. And so I've been fortunate to, retain the languages and use them all the time here. Now my folks, they followed the American dream. My dad worked for a contractor, ended up having his own construction company. So I grew up building houses. Me and my brother took over when he retired. My brother then completely kept the company since I was focused on real estate. I do have my general contractor's license as well. So I have a lifelong history in construction, 26 years in real estate. And right out of college, I did mortgages for about 8 years. And essentially, the journey, there's been other things besides just work. But honestly, I just turned 50 in January, and I've pretty much dedicated my life since I was 22 years old to real estate and everything about it.
That's incredible. So, obviously had to grow up getting your hands dirty, working hard, and that's completely, translated obviously into your extended real estate career. 23 years in real estate is that should be like retirement level, right? With the military, 20 years, 23 years in real estate, certainly a survival of the fittest for sure. So let's talk about this because you've done it with teams, you've been a team lead, you've had all the businesses, you've done it solo. But the incredible piece about this, and we talked about this yesterday when we were talking about, this interview, is that you've done it merely through relationships, right? It's not some flashy YouTube channel. It's not, the Tom Ferry scripts, it's merely through relationships. So talk a little bit about how that has looked in your career from, even the lending world into a solo agent, into a team lead, and now kind of back to, kind of a solo agent.
Well, shit, it goes way back to the late 90s when I was in college. I worked at a mattress company while I was in school. Actually, I had multiple jobs. In fact, I've had a job since I was 22. Well, I always owned my own business since. But the mattress company, we would get commission for selling the mattresses and beds and stuff. And there used to be competitions between the stores and everything else. And it's funny because that's where I really got my first taste of, the different methods of dealing with the public and with sales. My roommate was super slimy. He's like one of those slick, like car salesman types. Just say whatever, do whatever. And I know this sounds kind of funny to go all the way back to those years, but I learned early on that I was very much about being honest, transparent, and trying to do things the right way. I don't know if it's part of my upbringing or whatever, but it just, I cared about each customer's needs, and I didn't want to rip them off or misrepresent anything. And to add a layer to that, these guys were very competitive, and I like to win. I'm competitive. I ended up, I've been very, very successful and fortunate to be at the top in most of the things I've done my whole career. But this almost became like the race between good and evil. Like on a typical Sunday, we look at the scoreboards, who's got the most sales. And, I realized early on that you can be the best and be successful while always creating a win on both sides. At that time, it was being a salesperson and a customer. Now it's being a listing agent, working with a buyer's agent, your sellers with your buyers. In his mentality, my old roommate, good friend of mine, who passed away years ago, just said is one of my best friends. But, his mentality was just get after it. Doesn't matter, whatever it takes, sell it. And it reminds me of a couple guys I know here that just blast mail out, and they're transactional. They don't care about the relationship. They're just transactional. But here I
Mhm.
am years later, realizing and still carrying it on, but on a much higher level, that the relationships that you create, not just with your clients, but with agents on the other side, and also just having this really healthy fusion. And you cannot, this because you're a top sales guy too. You know how it is. No matter what you do, there's certain situations people are just not going to be happy. It's not going to work out, right? But at the end of the day, like, you could definitely set everybody up for success by handling things this way to begin with. And so, I have found that, over the years doing business this way, not only has it helped me with my clients and repeat business, but I'm 80% of the time on the listing side. But I tell you what, when I have an offer and I'm dealing with one of these agents that I've dealt with over the years, it doesn't matter if there's
Mhm.
20 offers, they're really pushing for us to get this property. So building these relationships, it started at a very young age on how to handle business this way, but it's like blossomed into helping, like, in multiple ways. It's a game changer. It's been an absolute game changer. And that's what I try to teach young agents coming in. Don't be transactional, be relational, right? And so anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's huge. And when we really step back and look at this, we've had this conversation. Some of the other, top people that maybe somebody would call an influencer, a YouTube influencer, when we get down at those leaders dinners and we're hanging out, it's really about the relationships, right? Everybody's talking about their sphere of influence. They may have something shiny over here that everyone thinks that, is the real drive to their business, but the truth is it's these relationships. So what would you say, or what do you say when people tell you that the relationship maybe isn't the relationship built business isn't scalable? What's kind of your response to that?
Well, but that's just it. Like, and this goes back to the transactional relational thing, right? So, like,
Mhm.
goes back to even my guy that used to compete with me being a slime ball. Like,
Yeah.
sure, like, look at these people that pay for, I'm not going to name companies, but there's these companies that sell leads or whatever, right? So
Mhm.
look at these companies that years ago, when you can buy zip codes and you can just spend $40,000 a month and just, you can really run numbers up, right? Where are those people at today in this market? Where's everybody at? Where are those companies at?
Right.
I mean, number one, right off the bat, is that if you're just doing it to do it and pad your bank account, and really not even care, because honestly, I think that if people are focused solely on scalability, then they're not focused on helping people. You can have
Mhm.
both. I want to scale, like, I could do both, but you can't have one without the other and be sustainable and be marked. Like, look, 26 years. Okay, 1999, right? What have I been through in my career?
Yeah.
There's never been a moment in 26 years where I cannot make a living. Not a moment. The only time in 26 years where I couldn't do my job was the first couple months of COVID, when I was not an essential worker. We had to sell houses without walking them, without being able to get inspectors in there. I had buyers buying properties sight unseen because we couldn't walk them. So for a couple months during COVID, I was worried about how I was going to do my business. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, you know, you can scale with relationships, because these are the people that know and trust you. And because they keep coming back and working with you, I've taken first time home buyers and made them millionaires in equity. Some of them in as little as 5 or 6 years. Like, I've helped people like that didn't even know they could ever buy a house. Now they have rentals. Some of them live in $1 million, houses, which I know California is not a big deal. They're doing at a new level, but I'm just saying, like, they come back all the time. And then right now, when people are worried about interest rates, whatever, my clients are cleaning house. We're buying stuff left and right. We're buying stuff $100,000, $200,000 under market value. Just because my buyers trust me, they're not worried. Like, I do the math with them. Like, people are so hung up, oh, the interest rate. It's like, look, the interest rate's saving you like $200 a month, $2,400 a year. This property is going to be fought for and sell for 150,000 more when the rates come down, because everybody's going to come off the fence, supply demand. My clients
Right.
get that stuff, right? So, like, as far as scaling, it's, I need to do a better job continuing to ask for more business for them to do more outreach for me. That's where I'm
Mhm.
lacking. I'm not spending enough time getting them to do more outreach. So if we set up a competition, let's say January 1st, and heck, this would probably be a fun one, right? Let's set up a
Mhm.
competition. Let's get the production people that are transactional. Let's get a couple of us sphere people, and just set it up. Like, let's see, okay, who can really scale an effective business, this method and this method. and then make it sustainable. And so,
Right.
does that make
And I
sense to
think
you?
yeah, you mentioned a pretty good point. It's like what does scale mean to you, right? For somebody that hasn't sold a home in, 6 months, scaling looks a little bit different to somebody like you and I. But to say that you can't scale through relationships is silly because I mean, what's your best year in real estate? Transaction sides, volume. What's your best year, Shane?
For me, well, it's a little different. We don't do a lot of units here.
Mhm.
41 units is the most I've done in a year in my career. Um, I'd say dollar volume, probably about 50 million.
Okay. We're talking
And that
50
was
million, right?
that
We're talking 50 million.
right.
When, you ask someone about scaling, they're talking about getting to the $10 million mark, off the mat, and then, 25 and then 50. So proof is in the pudding. Scaling your business is possible through relationships right there. $50 million real estate year, I don't care what market you're in,
Gotcha.
is a pretty good year. So
Oh, yeah,
that's
that's a
pretty
good point.
impressive.
I
So
didn't I didn't look at it that way, but that's a good point. Yeah, about
yeah,
90% of the business that we do is repeat or referral. And right now I could
right.
look at the last 10 listings I've signed in the last month and a half, and 9 out of 10 are past clients,
Yeah.
or referrals. So yeah, it's but the
Sounds pretty
scale,
scalable to me, past
yeah.
clients,
Well, yeah, but
continuing.
the other part of the scalability, like I said, is you can buy scalability, right? But you can't
Mhm.
retain it. Like,
Yeah,
you just because, yeah, it just you could if you then all of a sudden became relational, right? So okay, I'm going to be scale transaction guy, and then while I'm doing this, I'm going to build behind and be, But people don't do that. People that want to do that are just focused on doing that. What I'm
yeah,
saying is you could do both, and
yeah,
so
and I think that's the killers. We do have one group that, has as part of the evil empire, but they are in the Wolfpack, so we got to give them a shout out. But they do really focus on that relational piece. So they're helping new agents get leads, crush leads, but it's important to them for their agents to build the know like and trust factor. The trust
right.
builds up, and then those repeat clients come in, and that's why they're one of the top teams in the state and will be one of the top teams in the country as they get their business up and running. So let's transition a little bit, Shane. Yesterday, at the time of this recording, was a pretty big milestone in your life, and yesterday you said something else to me that I want to kind of dive into. And you had a little bit of a time with a health scare, sitting, in a hospital bed. And tell us a little bit about that situation and kind of the perspective that it gave you and the shifts that you've made 3 years later now through that health journey.
It's interesting. So I've always worked hard and hustled. Like I work so hard that my body can't keep up with me, and
Hmm.
so I ended up passing out. I guess technically in the end they determined I fainted at a broker's open up in Blackhawk in a country club up in the East Bay. I was about an hour and a half north of home. And anyway, I was in the hospital in the ER for like 10 hours. I mean, I'm in pretty good health. They couldn't figure out what's going on, did all these scans and stuff. And then with the ultrasound, they found this tumor on my right kidney. And so when I was going to be discharged, like, hey, you're going to have to go see your doctor. Well, first they asked me what I did for a living, and I told them real estate, and they were laughing because, like, well, after everything we've done here, it's like you're dehydrated, you're pretty exhausted, you seem like you're sleep deprived, you have a little bit of gastritis, like your body's just shut down. You're just doing too much. You need to like probably sleep more, rest more. You're gonna have to slow down. And so that's what they told me. But then that tumor was of some concern. And so basically I went back home, talked to my doctor, sent me to the urologist. 5 weeks later, I was in surgery. So they determined that it was renal cancer. There was a cancerous tumor and it had to be removed. And
Mm.
honestly, like two things happened. One is I'm so busy and have so much going on that it didn't hit me like, oh yeah, cancer. It didn't even hit me because like this is crazy. This sounds crazy to you. And I just had this talk with somebody the other day. It was like one more thing on the to-do list. Like I'm actually thankful that I was not like on a beach somewhere like semi-retired enjoying rev share because I
Mhm.
probably would have like fell apart. But I was so busy, I was like, okay, well, one more thing to deal with. And I just like, dealt with it. Reality though, and yesterday it really hit me hard is that remembering that moment being wheeled into the operating room still conscious, like you sign all these
Mhm.
papers, you can die and stuff. It's like a 6 hour surgery. There's complications. It's a big deal. And it's like, I don't know, I wasn't ready to face death, I guess, at, you know, 46 or 47. I didn't realize that this would be something that would come up. And
Mhm.
And what I do remember is that you don't even like, it's weird. I remember seeing that big light, like you see in the movies, like the big light and all these people.
Mm.
And I don't remember anything after that. I just woke up in a recovery room. I felt like 2 minutes later. But
Yeah.
what I did discover while recovering from that, by the way, I did get a call 3 days later that they tested it. It was renal cancer. They got clear margins. I should be good. I'm in cancer protocol for 5 years. Every 6 months, you get checked. One of my buddies, he had the same thing, and his did come back. I've been fortunate that it hasn't come back. So I do get
Mhm.
tested, every 6 months. But so what I did while sitting in my family room in a hospital bed after getting in the hospital was I was started realizing that how crazy it is that all this is happening, and meanwhile I'm focused on work and handling business and not even realizing that, like, hey, probably a wake up call, like, like. So I felt fortunate for being such a hard worker that I passed out and they found this, because it was this is a very silent killer. Like, you don't find out about this till it's usually too late or pretty tough. So I got lucky. I almost feel like this is the natural selection part. I feel like if I was a
Mhm.
lazy realtor, I would have been dead, because I mean they would have never found it, because it would have been too late. When you do start having complications in your lungs and stuff, you're screwed, right? So it's like
Yeah.
part of it was natural selection. It's like, okay, look, the good part is I am a hard worker and I worked so hard that this happened. They found it. But on the other hand, it was like, well, at the same time, this is a lesson that this is such a serious thing. I was so focused on work that I didn't even take it as such a serious thing. So while laying there, I decided that I wanted to simplify my life and just do what I enjoyed and what I loved, which real estate. I love real estate. I love construction. Love fixing up the houses, transforming the properties. And so I was like, I'm gonna hold on to that. I got rid of 7 Airbnbs, two retail stores, and a 20 agent production team. None of that was serving me. It wasn't. It was too much, even with managers and stuff. Trying, it was just too. It was not. None of that was really making money. It was just like time suck, headache, and it was overwhelming. Like, I had no time to be with even myself mentally. It was crazy, and so I decided that I wanted to also really focus on my health, because I've always been very active, very athletic, but I found that I was not really honoring my morning routine anymore. It got a little weird during COVID. Like, everybody was affected in different ways, and right before COVID, I was in the best shape of my life. And then during COVID, like, I don't know, just life got kind of strange. And I just realized that I wanted to refocus on, health is really important. And I wanted to focus on that. And so I basically made those changes in the business. Um, I also realized during that time that just because people have been in your life for a long time as friends or people that you work with, even people that are related, like, certain people just aren't meant to be in your life. And it was almost like this big purge of people in my life.
Mhm.
And while I'm recovering from cancer, I had a business partner do me dirty for like multiple seven figures, really financially devastated while recovering from cancer, really got burned by someone who had been like a best friend for, over 10 years. In fact, I, never was able to recover. So I did take a hit on that as well financially. So it's like I found myself with all these aspirations of direction I wanted to go, but I also found myself in a horrible position financially. Luckily, with the, like the sphere, people were still having us do their business. My team was helping run the transactions. Obviously, because I was down, I was not as productive as I could have been. But with
Mhm.
the money that I lost getting hit with this thing and then not getting paid, not only did I lose, but then I didn't get paid for any of the projects I'd worked on. I found myself in a situation where I also couldn't do anything physically. I couldn't lift more than 5 pounds for like a couple months. And I was limited in what I could do. I could barely walk half a block. Like, I was in really bad shape. I put on almost 60 pounds while I was recovering, and found myself really depressed too. Just, I mean, things just weren't going like well, right? Like, I had this vision and I wanted to get back on the horse, but my body was holding me back. And there was all these complications with things that happened with the business partnership on this. It was a separate thing. I had nothing to do with my main business, but it just, I don't know, it just, there was some really dark days. I got burned by a couple other people that were friends, and
Mhm.
just went through some really dark times. And I felt, helpless and out of shape and had no energy. And yeah, it took a lot from within to actually regain the inspiration and motivation to work back onto my feet to being successful again. I honestly was so bad and in such a dark place that my doctor sent me to a neurologist, and I was being evaluated and stuff because I was just really having a hard time. And I mean, I was never suicidal or anything, but during that time, one of my really good friends, a top producing agent from the Central Valley, she committed suicide. and that really hit
Mm.
me hard. And so with what I was going through, it was just some really dark days. I really was stunned by that. Suicide's one of the toughest things. I've lost people close to me that way, and it's one of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around. It's
Yeah.
just, I struggle with that. But I got to a point where it's like each day, like, look, here's what you got to do is go for a walk, at least go walk around the block. And then I get my notebook and my checklist, 5 things. And my assistant at the time was like, look, let's just try and accomplish 5 things every day and get your walk in. And so I
Mhm.
got to a point where I was just putting 5 things on a notepad and doing this walk. And that was like a successful day. If you can check off all 5 things, you make your walk, you're going the right direction. But anyway,
Right.
fast forward last year and a half, I lost almost 60 pounds. I got completely savage back into my workout, sports, everything else. I, completely, got more, well, I always had good systems, but really like with, moving around personnel and really refocusing the direction I was going, got really set up and started ramping up production. I'm not one to brag about myself, but in June last year, I was number 10 in the country in production for EXP
Mhm.
out of my
Yeah.
little county here, which is
Yeah.
I closed 10.2 million last June. And that was a real emotional win for me because I was like,
Right.
I went through a lot of shit. And to
Right.
be
And that's the mountaintop, right? You went from complete burnout, right? Obviously, you had the health stuff, didn't know, uncertainty, complete restructure of your business. Meanwhile, you're getting, a multiple 7-figure loss from another business, and you're sitting there looking around like, what do I have, right? And out of the 10.2 million, I'm sure that 95% of it, if not 100%, was based on those relationships that you did keep, that you did hold on to, that
right.
were the positive influences as you go. So from complete burnout, I mean, health, obviously in a hospital bed, helpless in your living room, to probably two years from that time frame to be number 10 out of 90,000
70,
agents in the
yeah, or
United
for
States.
US is 72, but yeah, we have 90,000
Right,
agents. Yeah. Um,
right.
yeah, no, well, that was a real emotional win for me. Like that was just that was like the first, like, you know what, I can do this. I'm gonna be fine.
Mhm,
And it was around that time that people around me saw me and what I was going through, and I started getting invited instead of like these top producer speeches to
mhm.
talk to people about like motivational speaking, which I never thought I'd be that guy, but to get on stage in front of people and talk about comeback from cancer, adversity, tough times. And
Yeah,
it's interesting. I got choked up the first couple of times. I had a hard time being vulnerable. Like I could go in front of 10,000 people right now and talk about production all day long. I have no problem being in front of people and talking. But
mhm.
man, to have to like talk about your situation, be vulnerable, it almost takes you back, and it's hard. But I noticed that I've inspired and connected with more people during those talks than any other thing I've ever done in my life, which has led me to also try and be more vulnerable on social media, which I'm not very good at social media, and I'm also not very, I just haven't put a lot of personal stuff on there. So I've been trying to be better about just being more vulnerable because I realized that, if I'm always talking about being top producer, most people can't connect with that. They can't see themselves there. Like they don't connect with you in that. They think, oh yeah, he's like a unicorn. That's like the 1% over there. Versus like everybody has struggles. And what I've noticed is that this journey has helped me be able to get everybody together on the same page and be able to inspire and help everybody because everybody's been through something. Everybody's had hard times. Everybody can relate. It's relatable. And that was something that I never thought I'd be that guy, and I'm so glad I'm
Mhm.
able to do that and help people.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that that's a key point is okay, so let's go back a little bit from the hospital bed to the 5 things. What got you back? What were some of those 5 things that you saw on your list day in, day out? Was it, were you searching for something new? Were you searching for something on how to build a new business, how to build it differently, or what were some of those key, cornerstones in that journey?
Well, it was like learning how to walk again. Like I didn't have to change what I had because what I had worked. As we
Mhm,
purged people and got rid of some people in the organization that didn't belong, and we got rid of some of these other businesses, we obviously had to do some reorganization. So there was some tweaking of systems and such. But honestly, these 5 things were actually just action items to do a little bit of what my daily regular responsibilities were. Like one
Mhm.
of them is, okay, you have your time block, honor your prospecting follow-up time blocks. Like that was one. And one would be too, like randomly, like trying to deal with the health insurance, all that stuff was going on, right?
Yep.
And then also another common one was dealing with some of the accounting and finances from closing out and restructuring some of this stuff. And I mean, essentially, like each day when you have your to-do list, like these were some were like just punch like in your face, like don't forget to do this, that's on your calendar, don't forget to do that, make sure you do your walk. But then there was just things that come up like, hey, today there's a deadline on this tax thing, or you need to talk to that CPA, whatever. But what
Right.
they tried to, so that, because I have this whole ADHD thing, right? Like I never had been diagnosed, even though I knew I was, but the neurologist made it very clear when I met with him, well, you have a severe case of ADHD, and working out in the morning is the best way to counteract that morning exercise, which that made sense because I always had a routine and it would really help me be more dialed. But the 5 items is just because, can you imagine how much my mind was spinning, being worried about everything, being concerned about
Mhm.
coming back, being concerned about having a normal life again, and just being able to recover from everything.
Right.
So that's why there was a limit of 5. And that's why it was very simple, very basic, because I mean, that's what it took to be able to focus and start putting one foot in front of the other, right? It's almost like
Right.
rehab from a really bad injury, right? It's
Yeah.
like when you're rehab, you can't like start sprinting on day one. You have knee surgery or something, and it's like, okay, you're doing this and this today, and then maybe you're progressing to that. And so it's kind of like rehab from an injury, but for the business and for like
Yep.
life in general.
Right, and you're removing the things that didn't serve you, as you mentioned earlier. You're, completely botching a system that had worked and grown to incredible lengths. A lot of people would say, "Okay, like, should I do something else? Should I go back to all into the construction, whatever it was?" But you said, "We're gonna completely revamp this, and we're gonna build it, brick by brick in a way that's going to serve me and keep me out of hopefully a hospital bed again due to, stress levels and those kind of things." So pretty incredible how that kind of progressed. And there's a lot of agents out there that, maybe haven't sold a house or whatever. And maybe that's your hospital bed, right? Shane was a very successful person and had all of that stuff and then got shut down like that. But he was at zero, right? He was at zero, not to mention he's getting stolen from over here and all of the things. He's at zero and he built it back up to number 10 in the US, which probably was your best month in your entire career,
It
right?
was
I
up
mean,
there. It pretty
overall.
much rivaled that because our prices have gone way up over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So we've appreciated a lot.
Mhm.
When I was selling REOs in 2012, my median home price was 220,000. Now it's
Yeah.
1.8 million. So you could see that when you say best month, well, yeah, with the appreciation and everything, yeah, anytime you can, do, I mean, look, that was $250,000 in gross commission. And
Yeah.
anytime I exceed 200,000 a month, it's a really good month, honestly. And so
Mhm.
that was definitely up there, probably the top 3 for
Right.
sure.
After
Uh,
a complete reorganization, a
right.
quick transition. So, and then talk to me about how, I mean, do you still do the 5 things or have you transitioned into more of a different model as far as showing up and being consistent with that prospecting? Because that's the big thing. What he did mention is that he got back to the traditional prospecting, what he was used to. So, how did you transition from just those 5 to where you're at today?
So quick side note. So just for like, so this is where in the future you can even smack me if you see me doing this, but the being like a sole producing agent and being successful, that's how I've lived my whole career. These like segues, these are people that come to me because I'm such an entrepreneur. Hey, we should do this store, or we should do this, or we should do that. Like I don't come up with these ideas. Like I'm like I need to just stay here, right? But it's like almost like a shiny object. Oh yeah, that'll be cool. So it's like the real estate itself and what I've built, that's very consistent. Where I mess up
Mhm.
and where I got to stay tunnel vision now is don't let me get into anything else. Now I just say
Mhm.
no. Like I have to say no because you know what it is when you're so it's the entrepreneur thing, right? So what I'm back to doing now is, construction all of a sudden started becoming kind of a distraction because we mainly have it because my contractors that I've always worked with, they can't quite keep up with the demand on how much we need done on our properties. So I got my license and I have a crew. But because there's such a shortage of contractors and people know the kind of work I do, they love the houses, how we fix them up and everything. We're starting to get sucked into doing work for past clients and other properties. Now, when we help a client buy a house, because we have the warehouse and the furniture and all that, and good designer, we'll actually we'll set them up as their second home Airbnb. So like we have one right now that we just closed on that I'm going to do a $250,000 remodel on. Then we're going to completely furnish and stock it. So it's a second home Airbnb for them. So it's like, I'm already like being cautious because what I did keep is already becoming a lot. So I'm being smarter about bringing in the right personnel, but I'm not letting myself get outside of that. So on the daily, my focus is supposed to be 90% real estate. And I have my time blocks because like you, I manage Sphere. I mean, my prospecting time block is only an hour a day. And then my staff all have their duties. Like each of my assistants has their role in what they do. Right. So, and I mean, at some point, if you want to discuss that, I'm happy to share about what everybody does as well. But so, yeah, so I'm at a point now where I'm 100% back on track. There's still been some tough times financially over the last couple of years. Sometimes that becomes, a big impact on having to spend time focusing on, better cash flow management and how to deal with all that. And then our CPA and bookkeeper retired last year. So it's like, look, life continues to happen. So there's things
there's
that
always changes.
Yeah. So we've continued to like have to go through that kind of thing. And as I've closed the book on a lot of these other businesses and such, it takes a couple of years to kind of just get things all squared away. So I really just try to be very good about honoring the morning. So I put my phones on do not disturb from 8:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. I try to get enough sleep. For me, if I can get 6.5 hours, that's a win. I've been not doing the best in that department. Getting up in the morning between 5:30 and 6, getting in a good workout, whatever it is that, I'm going to do that day. Right now, I've been doing a little sciatic injury, so I haven't been able to run. They've been making me just do the bike and other things. And so, because I love going before sunrise, that's one thing that happened with my recovery from all this is I love being out there, even if it's 30 some degrees in the morning in the winter. I love being on the beach before sunrise. Like I had like such a spiritual breakthrough back in January, actually on the beach before sunrise. That just became a thing for me 2 to 3 times a week in the morning. So like the mornings is my only time I'm enough to myself. So I really try to exercise and be with myself from when I wake up till about 7. Then I just do like breakfast, whatever, get myself ready to go so I can really hit the pavement by 8 o'clock. And when I say the pavement, not necessarily, you know what I mean? Just hit work, right? And so, And so, that's pretty much, the morning routine is the most important to me. And then trying to get that sleep in and, just taking better care of myself. That's the focal point. And then throughout the day, I have my time blocks and what I do and what my team does. And we're constantly trying to get more efficient, trying to actually bring a little more technology in without losing that personal touch. So,
I don't envy your team. Who's in charge of the tech? Just kidding.
No, I know. But hey, but they always say hire to your weakness, right? So
absolutely.
You can talk to any one of my assistants is really good with technology, super organized and very calm. See how I'm high strung? They're all calm, all of them. We balance so well because I'm the one that's like up here and everybody else is just like, they're so mellow. They're so nice. Like all of them. And they'll probably watch this and they'll agree with me. Like
You don't think you're nice, Shane? I'm just kidding.
What I'm saying is that, like, I guess nice might not be the right word, but here's the thing is because I'm so high touch with customer service and our clients have interfaced with my team. Like I'm very that's my number one, customer service, taking care of clients. And so when I talk about having these calm people that are very techie, not to knock engineers, but I'm not trying to have these engineer personalities that don't want to talk to people. What I'm trying to say is that they're nice, being that they have social skills. They enjoy interfacing with the clients. They're just a lot more mellow. And then they have strengths that I'm weak at, which is a very good balance.
Perfect. Okay. So as we wrap this up, advice for other agents. Give me 2 sentences. If you have an agent coming to you asking you for general advice to get into the real estate industry or scale their real estate business, where are you gonna go?
Well, first of all, like I'm gonna be the first to be guilty of being Mr. Instant Gratification. Like I want the deal today, right? And I've always been like, I want it today. And I actually had to pace myself in a lot of phases, even with weight loss or anything else. Just a little bit each day is progress and it'll make a difference. I'm not patient with that, right? So I've had to read books like Pound the Stone, The Compound Effect, Chop Wood, Carry Water. Like, dude, I have these books in Audible and I will listen to them, because even now it still messes with me. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because you can have big goals and you can get there, but you have to be willing to commit to do a little bit each day, and actually commit to doing a little bit each day. Obviously, everybody always says this, and I hear this all the time, but treat it like a business. Like, actually set up a schedule for yourself. Like, it's not just, because there's people that come in real estate, they just want to do the social aspects or whatever. Or maybe they kept their day job, they want to get into real estate, but then they're just not putting any time into it. So I would say that you have to put your time in. And another thing where I kind of failed up front too, even though I started with the sphere and everything up front, I was not good about building a database, right? And getting client reviews. Like, literally letting everybody know that you're licensed when you get your license, and literally like just making the world know, reaching out to everybody, and actually building your database. You have to do that day one. Like, that is so valuable. And then the other thing is having a mentor or a coach. Like, as much as I'm self-built or self-designed, whatever, I've taken a little bit from each of the coaches and people I've worked with. So like my sphere and the way I manage it and everything else, like there's different companies and different coaches I've worked with that have helped me, where I've taken things that work for me and I've put them with my ideas. I've also created some of my own ideas, but it's like you have to, like, instead of reinventing the wheel, like, sure, there's the basics that we tell you to do, but then go find someone that you look up to, that models what you want to be, and go learn from them, because they've already done it, instead of reinventing the wheel. So I think that those are probably the three basic things that I would encourage. Would be, like I said, obviously treat it like a job, commit to the time and the time blocks, and actually working on it every day, regardless of the results. Like, pay your dues every day.
Gotta
Like,
keep going.
yeah, keep going. Like, you're not seeing results yet, but keep going. Keep going.
Yep.
And then building the database, letting everybody know, and then getting like the right, guide. It doesn't have to be go pay for a coach. It could be even like on YouTube, or it could be someone you look up to. It could be going to a conference. Reach out to like one of us, like
Shane, Jeremy. That's what we do. We spend a lot of time with that.
I spend a lot of time with agents. Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing too, is that, sometimes agents are like, well, you never really reach out to me, whatever. Well, you know what? There's only so much of me to go around. Like, I will give time to those who are putting in the work. Like, when you're gone for 6 months and you show up all of a sudden, hey, I kind of want to do real estate, then you disappear again. That doesn't work. But for people that are like, that reach out, want time, if they're working hard, and I feel like it's worth investing the time and helping them, I'm always happy to help. But yeah, you don't have to go like super high-end professional, pay thousands of dollars. I mean, you could always look to, I feel like our time is valuable, but you know what I mean?
YouTube University, baby. And right there, that is Shanne Carvalho, 3 sentences that took over 4 minutes to explain. Just kidding.
Hey,
so
the
Shane,
technology and the talk.
I know you're getting ready to launch an agent-facing YouTube channel. So where can people connect with you? Where can people reach out to you? And yeah, where's the best place?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, where I do a lot of the interaction, especially with agents, is on Instagram. And you got my handle, and then as far as YouTube, I'll send you the new handle for the agent facing. But basically, I want to be really active. After all these years, YouTube's never been something I put a lot of energy into. We have like property videos and stuff on, but I'm fully going to actually start putting content out there. I mean, all this experience has to be let out. Like, can't believe I waited all these years and not done it. But I'll set you up with that link as well. So
It'll be a good one. Yeah, we'll put all the links in the show notes. Shane, thank you so much for your time. Excited to see what the future holds, and we'll see you at EXPCon in Miami, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much, Jeremy.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.